The Winds of Winter is a book plagued by constant delays, and it's uncertain if it will ever make it to the publishing stage. But while many fans of A Song of Ice and Fire have lost all hope that it will be released, I choose to believe that George R. R. Martin will deliver. And I might feel stupid for saying this later, but I would argue that The Winds of Winter has the potential to be the best book in the series, even better than everyone else's favorite Storm of Swords. Now, maybe it's been too long and you've lost interest in this world entirely. To those who feel that way, I hope to change your mind by the end of this video. So let's get into it. A Storm of Swords is pretty universally agreed upon to be the best book in the series. It gives us all our long-awaited payoffs, and truly feels like the culmination of all the storylines in the last 3 books. On the other hand, when most fans point to their least favorite book in the series, they usually give one of 2 answers: A Feast for Crows or A Clash of Kings. The reasoning for both of these is that they feel like too much setup, and there's a lot of meandering, and certain plotlines aren't very interesting. In A Clash of Kings, POVs like Jon, Arya, and Dany just seem to be waiting for the plot to need them again. And similarly, in A Feast for Crows, we get a lot of Brienne wandering the Crownlands and the Riverlands, and Samwell on a ship. And for the record, I love both these books, and I love all these plotlines, but I can still see the issues some fans take with them. Furthermore, when people think about their least favorite aspects of A Dance with Dragons, they'll point to Tyrion, Dany, and Jon chapters, because it also feels like they aren't really leading anywhere. It's all about getting them to a place George wants so they can become relevant to the main story again. When George spends an entire book trying to place a character into a certain spot, it means he's positioning them for a very specific and/or important role they're going to play in the future. In Clash, Jon has to venture beyond the wall so he can fall in love with a wildling girl, which sets up his betrayal and the battle in A Storm of Swords. Similarly, Arya has her adventures with Jaqen, which sets up her decision to leave for Braavos to become a faceless man at the end of A Storm of Swords. And Daenerys wanders around Qarth for an entire book, so George can give himself enough time to deal with the War of the Five Kings before her conquest. In this vein, POVs like Brienne, Sam, Tyrion, Jon, and Dany spend the last books getting to a place where they need to be for certain payoffs to their storylines in A Winds of Winter. Brienne has been given an ultimatum by Lady Stoneheart. She, Podrick, and Sir Hyle can hang as traitors, or she can kill Jaime Lannister. Sam was last seen at the Citadel, staring into a glass candle with Sorella Sand and Jaqen H'ghar. Tyrion just signed over all the gold in Casterly Rock to the Second Sons in exchange for their loyalty to Daenerys, and is currently in the midst of a battle. Jon was just stabbed to death in a mutiny, meaning the wall will be in chaos, and Melisandre will take over as our Night's Watch POV. Daenerys was just captured by Dothraki once again, where she can win them over and begin making her way toward Westeros, or at least Volantis. After A Dance with Dragons, and especially the Winds of Winter sample chapters, I can't think of a single POV character who I'm not excited about seeing, because I know we are due for some Storm of Swords level payoffs. In a blog post last year, George revealed that the more he writes Winds, the more it's branching off into its own thing and blossoming into something completely different than what the show gave us. And for those of you who didn't like the direction the series took characters like Tyrion, Arya, or Dany, this should be very exciting. Not that any of us ever expected George to give us anything remotely similar to Arya ending the long night, or Jaime saying that he never cared about the common folk, but it's still a nice thing to hear. And I think it points to something even greater than that. At least with Victarion, he began writing his point of view with the intention of killing him early on in A Feast for Crows. But he fell in love with the character, and wanted to see where the story would take him. I think something along those lines is going to happen with a lot of new characters going forward. If George had any intention of killing Areo Hota or Barristan or even Aeron, as bleak as it might seem for him right now, I feel like our author might change his tune, and now he wants to give these characters a bigger role in the story so he can separate himself from the show as much as possible. And while that might sound reactionary, like he's overhauling all his plans to go into a new direction just because people didn't like the show, keep in mind, George has constantly been changing his plans. He has the main points figured out, but everything in between is subject to change depending on where the characters take him. We're most likely to see a lot more from characters like Darkstar, John Connington, Ariane Martell, Moquoro, Marwyn the Mage, Asha Greyjoy, Rickon Stark, Sweet Robin, the Blackfish, and who I'm most excited for, Lady Stoneheart, who has just given Brienne the ultimatum to save Podrick's life in exchange for the Kingslayer. So we have the trial of Jaime Lannister to look forward to. But the point is that even if George didn't originally intend for these characters to play massive roles in the overarching plot, he might keep them around a bit longer if they continued to improve the story. While Fire and Blood is not my favorite in terms of writing style, it undeniably tells one hell of a story. I won't spoil House of the Dragon, but following the dragon battle between Lucerys Velaryon and Aemond One-Eye, the Dance of the Dragons is non-stop battles, betrayals, and utter chaos for the realm. And since George has basically confirmed that one of his upcoming books will feature a second Dance of the Dragons, one can only surmise that it will take place in, or at least begin in, the Winds of Winter.
This is gonna be a bloodbath, Tom!
With the threat of the others coming into play and only 2 books left, I have a hard time imagining George will save the entire dance for A Dream of Spring. But who knows? With Dany still in the Dothraki Sea, it's unlikely that she'll be able to make her way to Westeros in time for an Aegon confrontation in this book. I know that goes against my entire point, but from the looks of what George has set up, we're opening this book with 4 different battles in 4 distinct locations: Winterfell, Old Town, Storm's End, and Meereen. And once John Connington and the Golden Company take Storm's End, and Euron Crowseye takes Old Town, the political climate in Westeros shifts dramatically. Not to mention the death of Kevan Lannister, who was the only person holding King's Landing together. This will leave Cersei with no allies but Qyburn and Sir Robert Strong.
Long may she reign.
She has her trial with the Sparrows to deal with, so I'm sure Old Town is the last thing on her mind. In essence, George has set the stage for a landscape similar to what we got in the Dance of the Dragons. The 7 kingdoms are all at odds. The North has Stannis fighting the Boltons, and the Night's Watch just committed a mutiny. The Riverlands are under attack from Stoneheart and the Brotherhood without banners. The Reach and the Stormlands are both under siege. The Stepstones have been overtaken by a Velaryon pirate king. Dorne has entered the fray, and Daenerys will soon begin making her way toward Westeros. And I'm sure she'll nuke Volantis on the way. Suffice it to say, even if the dragons don't dance, this book will give us some beautifully constructed anarchy. Hopefully this video increased your anticipation for the Winds of Winter. Maybe I'm being too optimistic and the book will never be published. Let me know, otherwise Ripley and I will catch you in the next one.